Stop for a moment, close your eyes and see your dreams, vibrant, beautiful dreams, but they are trapped. They're buried under the crushing weight of 1,000 forced promises, 1,000 little yes. If you've ever felt your energy draining away, if you've ever felt yourself fading into the background of your own life, then this story is for you. This is the story of Liana, a woman who believed her worth was tied to her helpfulness, and how she found freedom not by achieving more, but by the quiet, revolutionary power of choosing less. Hit subscribe right now if you know the painful feeling of wishing you could disappear when someone asks for one more favor. Liana was a magnet for need. She had a passion, art, that was her external want, the life she longed for. But her reality was a 5:30 a.m. scramble, hunched over her phone, checking emails not for her job, but for the volunteer committee she dreaded. Her art canvas stood untouched, a silent judge in the corner. Her true enemy, her internal need, was her crushing fear of disappointment, the belief that if she said no, she would lose love. Imagine the most beautiful moment of your day stolen. Liana finally sat at her easel, pencil in hand, hope rising, and then the familiar electronic chime. A friend, demanding, a shift cover tonight. We watch Liana's shoulders slump, the light draining from her eyes as she types, "Sure, no problem." In that moment, she sacrificed her passion for a single vibration. The hardest thing to say is, "No, not right now." You say it all your life and then you pay for it. Does Liana's sadness look familiar? Comment yes, if you've ever sacrificed a vital piece of your soul for someone else's convenience. The universe finally intervened, not with a whisper, but a rejection letter. The city gallery, her dream, had declined her. Not because her art wasn't good enough, but because her application was incomplete. She'd missed the deadline while organizing a neighbor's surprise party she didn't want to attend. The yes had finally cost her a dream. This failure was mandatory. It was proof that her boundaryless life was now consuming her purpose. Liana met with her old professor, Martha, the beautiful warrior of independence. Liana blamed everyone else, but Martha cut through the excuses. Martha said, "Liana, the only person demanding your time is you. You hold the pen that writes your schedule. Self-respect is a louder song than applause. Start with one no this week." Liana nodded, terrified. She still whispered, "What if they think I'm selfish?" But the pain of the rejection was finally greater than the fear of change. The journey began with a trembling promise to herself. Change is a practice, and Liana's first test was a painful failure. A colleague asked for an urgent favor. Liana tried to say no, but the old reflex kicked in, a nervous stammer that ended in a shaky yes. She stayed up late again, the familiar shame a bitter taste in her mouth. She learned that old habits fight back, and her internal enemy was stronger than she thought. We all fail. Like this video, if you've ever tried to set a boundary and had your old fears drag you right back down. The universe tests you when you're most vulnerable. Liana faced a critical choice. A career-making business dinner or a 2-hour drive to satisfy a demanding but familiar family obligation. She felt the gut-wrenching guilt, but she heard Martha's voice. She found her strength. She politely, firmly stood her ground and arranged a compromise. The guilt was immense, but in that moment she stopped reacting and started choosing. This was her point of no return. Commitment is an act, not a word. Her former friend, the constant demander, confronted her. "You're getting selfish, Liana. We used to be able to count on you." The words were a knife. Liana felt utterly alone, questioning the cost. The lowest emotional ebb is when the old world fights its hardest to reclaim you. She thought about giving up, about retreating into the comfort of compliant exhaustion. The peace she sought felt too expensive, but Liana looked past the tears to see a new light in her eyes. The space she created, the time protected by those difficult no's, had been filled with work that mattered. She finally understood the deepest truth. It's not about being mean, it's about being clear. Her internal conflict dissolved. She realized her boundaries weren't walls to keep people out. They were guides to show people how to truly value her. This was her core motivational breakthrough. The ultimate test arrived. The committee chair resigned, and all eyes, full of hope and expectation, turned to Liana. This was the final battle against her own history. Liana took a deep, centering breath. "I will not be taking the chair position. My focus must remain on my art." She didn't shout. She didn't apologize. She simply stated her truth. The peak of the conflict was not in fighting others, but in holding her line. The camera settles on Liana's completed canvas. It's vibrant, fluid, and fearless, the visual manifestation of her reclaimed soul. The victory wasn't in a job title, it was internal. She found courage, she found clarity, and her art lived again. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Say no to the drain so you can say yes to the pour. Sharing the journey is how we cement the lesson. Liana gave Martha a sketch of the new painting, but gave her words that mattered more. Liana said, "I learned that no isn't the opposite of love. It's the highest form of self-love. When I defined my limits, my life didn't shrink. It clarified. I finally stopped living in the margins of other people's stories, and because Liana changed, the world around her began to shift. The coworker who once relied on her approached her, not with resentment, but with gratitude. Coworker said, "Seeing you say no so clearly, it gave me permission. I finally told my boss I couldn't work Saturday. You showed me that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's an act of leadership." The final beautiful truth. Liana is at her kitchen table. The phone buzzes. Liana doesn't flinch. She takes a mindful sip of coffee, opens her sketchbook, and calmly draws the first line. The buzzing is just noise now. Her piece is integrated. This is the end of Liana's story, and the beginning of yours. Her life is her art, and she is finally, proudly, the only one holding the brush. Let this be your reminder. Comment below. What is the one thing you will say no to this week to reclaim your peace? Subscribe, like, share. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love both you and me simultaneously.